Okay, good evening. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person and as a courtesy via remote means in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public and board members, the meeting hearing will not be suspended or terminated if tech problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless required by law. Viewers can visit the local scene.media/Duxbury, formerly PAC TV, to watch a video replay of this meeting on Duxbury YouTube. Welcome. Okay, so I would like to just start out by saying, you know, the Clipper does a great job and they're very kind in covering but this week they in their article on our discussion about the 4th of July, they credited our finance director with not understanding that the article in the special town meeting was for money to be used for the parade in 27. Obviously, Mary knew that quite well, and Mike McGee was the one that had asked for clarification. We've asked them to correct that, but you know, once you ring a bell, right? But I did think it was worth mentioning that our finance director does understand when the monies are available to be spent. And it was merely a typo on their part, for which they were sorry. Okay, minutes, please. We have minutes from the 20th.
Yes, we do. Minutes, 5/20/25.
And our blue pencil has gone through them.
I have, and appreciate the red highlights for short-term rentals are prohibited. I recommend the
I
minutes,
did read those.
recommend the minutes as written.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Yeah. Al.
Al, great. All right, all those in favor, Sean, we'll start with you just because you're on the Zoom. Aye,
Aye.
okay, Al,
Aye.
Friend, I.
Kathleen, aye, Betsy, aye.
5.
And then there's nobody else that's on Zoom right now
No,
on the committee. Okay, great,
I don't see anybody.
perfect. All right, so minutes done. All right, so as is our practice, we have invited the sponsor of 2 articles that are coming up on the September 16th meeting. Derek Bennett has been kind enough to come down here to go over those 2 articles. As his name is attached to the citizens petition, although I know that you gathered a lot of support from the community and
Correct.
you must have been the cookie mother. You were the last one. You left the room when they said whose name was gonna be on this, pretty much. Okay,
I'm sorry.
More than willing.
Your first name?
It's Derek.
Derek.
Last name is Bennett.
all right, very good. So why don't you take the wheel and we have some information and when you want us to, will be shared with the public, so
Sure.
you can follow along with that.
Is this the correct one I should be showing?
This is that the first one you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, those are there basically if you guys have any questions. Did you want me to present that?
I want you to
Some
do
form of-
whatever makes you
Okay,
comfortable.
well, I was
So-
gonna start with, good evening. My name is Derek Bennett. I'm a resident, a taxpayer, and a proponent of 2 articles to restore 2 police and 2 firefighter positions that were cut after the override failed. Let's be clear, public safety is not optional. It's not a luxury. These aren't extras, they are essential. Police and firefighters protect our homes, respond to our schools, and run, excuse me, to danger when others can't. They're not a special interest. They are the public interest. These articles don't raise taxes. They responsibly use stabilization funds, which remain well above policy limits, to ensure our first responders have the staffing they need to keep Duxbury safe. This isn't about politics, it's about priorities. Every resident, every student, and every neighborhood deserves protection, not next year, now. Let's send a clear message tonight. Duxbury backs its first responders. And I respectfully ask for your support. Thank you.
Yeah, what's the name of the group? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Which group? There was no group.
Duxbury.
Oh, no, Duxbury backs its
Oh,
first
yeah, sorry, I'm so
responders.
sorry. I
No, no,
thought it was an acronym.
Yeah, so,
Okay, great. So Article 4 is the citizens petition to use stabilization funds to increase the appropriation.
okay.
Yeah,
I'll even get out of anybody's room.
no, you're fine. In FY 26 operating budget, just to be clear, this would be impacting July 1st of this year through June 30th of next. Line number 30 entitled Police Salaries, that would be Article 4, is the first one is for police. And you were looking for an appropriation from stabilization of 186,648. Do you mind starting with how you came up with that number?
Sure. Well, as it explains in the next slide.
If you wanna go through the slides with that,
Yeah, would that help? Go
Might
ahead.
help us.
I think I feel better if you guys ask me the questions. I mean, the slides speak for themselves, but I'm happy to. I guess you want me to present them, yeah?
How many
as
are-
written?
Only five.
fine.
There's only 5, yeah.
But it might,
Okay.
it just might
I
help
appreciate it.
make sure that
Yeah,
you
sure.
cover everything
Okay.
that you want to cover.
Yeah. Yes, so how we came up with the figures was the fiscal year 26 Article 5B override budget proposed 4 new positions with the police for a total of 373,295, which cost per position is 93,323.75. So if we multiply that times 2 for 2 salaries, we come up with 186,648. So that was using the figures in the 5B override budget.
So Derek, can you
Sure.
pause just a minute
Yeah.
here? So you've got a proposed amount for 4 new positions and it's.
Well, that was proposed, I'm sorry, in the override
that
budget.
was, Chief Reardon, Chief.
Oh, this was coming off the
The
warrant,
warrant, okay.
yes.
So,
So all we did was reduce it by 2 positions to come up with the math, which is 186,000.
So, I mean, it's an estimate, but it's a good estimate.
Going off the warrant,
so
yes.
here's where.
Sorry,
where I'm
go ahead.
getting- no, that's okay, where I was getting a little confused with maybe it's just the language. So we have a restoration of 2 positions, but yet the 4B override budget asked for 4 new positions
Correct.
is.
These are new positions.
These aren't new, these are vacancies, I believe, that were created in the department.
The level funded A budget had the police losing 2 positions.
Okay,
So this is restoring those 2, not touching the 4
I
additional.
just wanted to make sure I understood.
But
the new and
he got the number by using the number presented for the 4
Correct.
additional. So you just use that as a means of calculating an
Correct.
amount.
Right,
Okay, so it's not tied to any individual or line item or employee. It's not John Smith X.
correct. It
It's just,
was what
you
the
just
department was
used it,
asking
you,
for. and
you
what was-
used a reasonable
You
estimate.
made
Correct.
some
Yeah,
assumptions
we
around
didn't pull
that.
out of thin air.
Okay,
It
all
was
right.
numbers that were presented during the town meeting.
Right, and no benefits or anything else were added into these numbers. This is strictly wages, correct?
Correct, salaries, right.
Okay.
As it's
So we have to add anywhere from 30 to 50% on top of that. For bennies.
Well,
potentially, yeah, I mean. If those numbers don't satisfy the requirement, then potentially, yes, we might have to ask.
well, it wouldn't be the same, transfer.
Well, it would be an amendment on the warrant.
No, I think it's
Okay.
fine. But I'm just saying, I'm just making it as a clarification. This number is strictly labor and wages. It does not include benefits, stipends, anything else.
Overtime.
That's it.
Perhaps not, but maybe so.
No, I'm telling you, I'm
Okay,
giving
all
you,
right, all
I'm
right,
giving
you're
you a little
telling
hint here. No, it does not. But
But I could do a little input here for a second. I asked
what, you know what, just for the sake of Linda, if you could identify,
Susan Curtis.
I know who you are, but
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, we asked that very question. This is strictly for salary. And we were told, by somebody who will actually give us the information that we're looking for up at town hall, that the benefits, there's plenty of money in that benefit account that should be able to cover all 4 of these positions.
Is that
That's what
from
I was
Mary
told.
McKinnon? Is that from our finance director,
No, it
Susan?
was not.
Well, then I would,
So we can ask her that question. She's on here, right? We can ask her that question.
yeah, I think it's an unanswerable question. Because if you're hiring 2 people, you don't know what their benefit package will be. They could not take benefits, they might take family, they might take individual. I wasn't trying to make a thing out of it, I was just clarifying the number is strictly for labor costs, that's.
So we
That's all.
asked the 2 departments if these numbers would satisfy what they would need for these 4 positions, 2 and 2. And we were told.
No,
that
this is just for 2
salary,
positions.
just for salary, that would be more than adequate. And then as far as the benefits went, that they felt that what was in the account would cover.
It's not in the account, it's what's been budgeted. It's semantics to a certain extent, but it is different, it's important language, so. The benefits account would support, and that's fine, but it's not, it's fine, yeah. You're saying the same thing, only
That
you're
is a
saying in different words.
Don't,
That is,
don't we typically use 30% for all of the benefits tagged on to a salary?
yeah, roughly.
Yeah, I mean, so,
Well, I think,
Historically, that's been a number that's been used in budgeting for
it's, and
33%.
yeah, it changes every year. Some people drop it, some people add it, some people go from single to married. There's
It's
always,
just not health insurance, right?
Yeah.
But it's the package, the whole package.
right, right, but, then there's social security, there's all sorts of stuff that go into it, but this, I understand how you come up with the number.
Yeah.
And it was a reasonable way to do it.
It's
Yes,
a
which is,
starting point. I mean, I'm
I
willing to
don't know
work
how
with
you get,
somebody
I don't know how
to
you.
come up with a more accurate number if,
Not unless you have the people,
yeah, no, I don't.
so it was a reasonable estimate, that
Correct,
was all I was
All right.
wanting to clarify.
Betsy, can I ask a question, please? John Baldwin, High Street.
Hey, John, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
I'm fine.
So if you had this in the 5B, we had 5A and 5B, and you use this number. Was there someplace else in 5B for the budget? For the override budget? That was gonna pick up for the benefits? Is
I think-
Shared costs,
It would be under shared costs, but
which is
it's,
all.
it's,
the whole
I wasn't trying to make a thing out of the benefit, I just wanted him to clarify if you had
Okay, whether it was in our-
included it in determining this number, the answer is no.
It's just.
Asked and
Salary
answered.
Period.
Yeah, we
Move
could
on.
go down a
Okay.
rabbit hole that will choke us all, but,
Because I calculated it.
sorry, what?
It's
Oh.
Christine Hill. I calculated it. So can I just explain how we did it and the information that we couldn't find?
Christine, would you, sure, go ahead.
Okay, so I took from the override budget, I just took and I found out how much you were paying in the basic salaries. And I think looking at it, I thought overtime was included in there as well, because the amount is more than what the police and fire said a base salary was for a starting firefighter. Then there was a discussion about adding in the expenses per employee, because there was a line item below each of the salaries for the expenses. And then how were we going to write that so it was appropriate? And so people were worried about that, so we left it off, but I was going to calculate it by the same way, by calculating the cost per person and then, multiplying it by 2. But then we got to the benefits and we really had a problem trying to figure out how to write it, because as you know, everybody has a different benefits amount. And then you have in that budget at the end, you have like 6 different lines that you have to distribute it among. So we just didn't know how to do that, and we couldn't get any information. So the group, I was doing the calculations, but this is part of a big group. So the group just decided to go with the simple the simple articles the way they are now. And if you
Yeah.
guys can help with any of that, it would be greatly appreciated.
Well, it's an unanswerable question until the person is hired.
Right, but you budget, you make a guess in the budget anyway, right? You make a guess when you make the budget in March about how much you're going to allocate to each person anyway. So for the town, like for the special town meeting, don't we have to sort of make a guess also?
No, I think that the shared costs, since these are the replacement of two positions that currently exist and are currently budgeted, it really is an increase, it's a flat.
Okay,
You're
Well-
it's not two new people, it's, if I understand the article correctly, it's
Restoring.
it's just restoring two that currently, positions that currently exist.
That was
right,
my,
right, but because like two of the, then it gets complicated though, because the two firefighters who retired, they were very senior, and I think it was known that they were going to retire. And then a lot of the police positions weren't filled, and they were just using the money for overtime. So I'm not sure we're really replacing
You
any
don't take
particular.
money out of shared costs for overtime.
Oh,
I think we're making
Okay.
this more complex than it needs to. I think that what you're trying to do in this article is to provide a number for those two positions' wages. And I don't want to speak for you, Derek, that would be, that's what I'm hearing.
Correct, that's what this represents, but if
and-
there are additional costs.
Right,
And-
but that's not what this we're talking about this article and
this is the money you're asking
And
for.
this is the money you're asking for, so why don't we, I think that if you start bringing in other things, it's going to make it. It's going to muddy the waters, what you're trying to do is. Transfer money to cover this for the wages,
Correct.
then let's maybe
Okay.
stay on that, because. The shared costs should be handled. Okay,
Okay, so that was that.
next,
Slide.
Derek, next slide. There we go.
So same thing with the fire department. Yeah,
Very similar.
very similar.
Your assumptions and your math. Okay.
Yep, proposed amount, according to the Article 5B override budget was $651,964. Breaks down to a cost per position of $108,660.67. Multiply that times two, gave us the number of $217,321. So again, using the same numbers that were presented in the 5B budget.
Okay. And I think when I started this, getting everybody confused, all I wanted to do is just determine whether you were taking it from the existing budget or the 5B budget. You've answered that question. Thank you. Sorry. All right, great. Anybody else have any questions?
Next slide.
Friend?
And it's just, a summary, so in total, the request would be $403,969.
But these would be two separate articles.
Right,
But that's
But
the
both
amount that would
being-
come out of stabilization.
Yes, but I believe that the transfers would have to be two separate votes to transfer. Well, the 186 and then.
articles.
Yeah, two separate,
Yeah,
articles,
this
two
is-
separate moves, not one. All right. Great,
and then why this matters, these funds do not raise taxes. They responsibly use stabilization funds to restore essential staffing. Police and fire services protect every neighborhood every day. And these are restorations, not to new positions. They maintain the level of safety residents expect.
okay. So the $64,000 question, what happens at the end of this year? Is this group committing to supporting an override to continue on this path?
I think what happens right now is this just buys time in the interim until the town, comes up with a, I don't think it's. So this is just a bridge, a responsible short-term solution while the town works toward a sustainable budget that prioritizes public safety, and that the voters are counting on. So
So no change,
I can't tell you that, I'm happy to be involved in that process to some degree, if the opportunity's there. But it's really left on the town's lap as far as developing the budget and how we're gonna move forward, keeping in mind that the residents, and we'll see at the town meeting, if they vote in favor of this, if their priorities are with public safety, so just making them a priority.
But one of the
Every
things
year.
that is, and I get it,
Mhm.
one of the things that's concerning is Mary did a revenue projection. A projection, right? Her numbers are historically pretty good, but a revenue projection showing that our revenues would, using the 5A budget, the budget that we're currently operating under, that as of next year, we would be $600,000 short. Adding this $400,000 to the pile would mean that going into FY 27 out of the gate, we're $1 million short.
You're talking about fiscal year 27. correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
So it would be, so
so I can only,
understand, I
assume
understand
that-
where you're
yeah,
coming
yeah.
from, and I totally get it. But I can't get myself to the point where I don't worry about the year afterwards. I need to be able to
well,
understand.
right, I think collectively as a town, we have to get to that point, because I think if the voters are prioritizing public safety, then everybody has a duty to listen to that. And
Yeah.
so,
but what if your,
I know this,
what if your prioritization is something else?
I that's decided at the polls,
Right.
right?
Well, there was a
Sorry.
decision at the polls.
Yeah.
To not accept an override.
Right, because it was an all or nothing budget, and I think, there was no way to pull out public safety and, vote on that independently. But that's why we went out, collected signatures. There was very little, if any, resistance with collecting a signature, and everything was just,
No, and
Spoken truth. Yeah.
I totally get it too,
Yeah.
because it's obviously.
it's what the town, we'll find out June 16th. If the town wants to prioritize public safety, and I think that should be, something everybody should pay attention to.
From a financial.
We're deciding the next budget. You're right, this is just projection, we're talking fiscal year 27.
So all this would do
Yeah.
is take money out of the savings account,
Yeah.
one-time money, to replace, to support these positions.
Mhm.
And for the next year, but what it doesn't do is answer the question of what happens in a year, and it's a question that has to be asked. Because the problem's not gonna magically go away.
Right, I think asking me is not the answer, I think it, like I said, I think it falls squarely on the town's shoulders as far as developing a budget that's sustainable and that prioritizes public safety.
Well,
That's all I can say, I don't know what I can offer more than that, just keeping that
but
in mind.
everybody,
There's definitely tough
yeah,
times ahead, there's tough decisions to make.
and I think that just making the point that
Yeah.
what this does is it makes us $1 million in the hole before we even start. And we've already made cuts all over the place, so if you don't want to cut public safety, that means all that. And I'm not saying that this is a
I
bad
can't tell
thing,
anybody how to do it or what has to happen, I think that's,
but isn't that
preliminary.
the easy way out? I mean, I agree with you that public safety is
Yeah.
absolutely,
it doesn't,
but to say, fix it with everything else without having that be a good conversation is a tough one.
no, I understand, and I think it's gonna fall back on what the voters decide. So if this is a priority for the voters.
Yep.
I'll just, probably saying the same thing, but I think that will be telling as far as, how we should work on this budget to make sure the public safety is funded
Right,
in the preceding.
That is a question, Betsy.
Any,
I'm sorry, who has?
I have to sit on that side of the room.
Yeah. Raise
Oh,
your hand.
oh, Teddy, okay,
Raise my hand doesn't work. I'm just gonna start
Oh,
yelling.
lasers.
yeah, go ahead.
Any
Start your vote.
consideration given to the highway department in terms of public safety, which I consider part of public safety?
Yeah,
I think that's an entirely different debate. Just here representing two articles for the police and fire specifically. So, sorry. can't answer that.
We definitely wanted to do something, for DBW, because you know that's near and dear to my heart. I drive by that every day, about 5 times a day. But the group felt like, the public safety was the priority, and that we had to decide how far we wanted to push this. And so, for right now, we want to, make sure that police and fire are taken care of, but DPW is going to be a priority. And, to your point, Betsy, we are gonna be on this like the dogs on a bone, because there's plenty of places to cut. I spoke to you 5 years ago about where cuts could be made. And, you know, essential employees are off the table. The people that came to work during COVID every day, while other people were working from home, are not the people we should have cut. So, we are gonna stay on this. We're gonna follow everything that's going on. I know tons of places that could have been cut. We have people that still do not show up to work to this day.
all right,
So we need to look at those things. We need to look at the waste. We need to look at, in May, when there's budget, you know, people still have stuff in their budget and they willy-nilly stop spending the money because they want to spend the money down, so they don't lose the money for their budget for next year. We're going to look at all that stuff. And we're going to set our priorities straight and make sure that the priorities of the town are going to be taken care of.
so Susie, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Who's we?
The people in our group. Because
Who are representative of an interest, but
we're
you know, are not,
That's
is not in and of
who we are.
itself going to steer the ship, right? It's part of the whole. That's all I'm saying, it's
Right,
part of the
right.
whole.
Of
One
course.
second, and I will absolutely recognize you, but I can see that, Bree has raised her hand and
Mary Sanford, is that great?
is that Bree,
Yeah.
Bree, have you got your hand raised?
I do.
Okay, I'm so sorry, I'm trying to follow along as best I can with folks. Did you have a comment you wanted to make?
Oh my gosh, don't even worry about it. I see the hands up. I play the chair in another committee and board, so I get it. Of course, I agree that safety is important, and I hear you 100% on the where's the money come from. I've got the operating budget in front of me, and I think, I don't know, just witnessing town hall the last month or so, knowing who's coming, who's going, maybe we reevaluate a couple of the positions on who, you know, maybe we keep the youngins and retire the oldies, but you know, some of these youngins can handle things twice the speed, twice the efficiency. Our town managers in like the, you know, 6-digit salary, it's pretty high. If I was out a planner, we could probably limit that.
Bree, okay.
Could you identify who's that speaking?
Yes,
Free link of Duxbury Union Street.
so, it's
Can't quite make it out.
No.
Spelling is too small.
it's the writing is too small.
Be what?
Okay.
I guess my overall point, I'm not trying to pick on one department over any other, just that, you know,
Well, I wanna know-
obviously, we've been working on cutting a lot of costs. I wonder what we can do and do without. We've proved we can do it without a planner for 2 years and we still need that. So if we're short and we don't even have all our positions filled, I worry that we can't add more positions, you know?
Well, what we're talking about is 4 positions here, so.
Right.
Okay,
So
Fred,
instead of saying how we pull this out of our savings, I'm just saying we cut costs somewhere else. And I'm looking at some of the payments that we pay people that are way, way above average. So maybe we fix that.
Could you please tell me who that is talking and what
Can
she
you give her-
represents?
He wants her name.
her name is,
Bree,
Bree, I'm
Bree.
sorry, Bree, your last name, I always say it badly and I apologize up
It's
front.
totally fine. It's the E is silent. It's Bree Ling. I represent myself, a resident of the Duxbury Union's Brief
So she
Committee
is not,
that
she doesn't
I've
work for
lived
the
in,
town. This is just her opinion. And
I am on the town payroll. I am on the
information.
town payroll because I work every election and I am on boards and committees, but I'm here representing myself.
Right, okay, but
But our
So-
focus should be on the
LEING.
special town meeting and not
Not
tearing
correct.
apart the budget in terms of who you think is worth the money to getting paid and who you
No,
don't. I don't think that's
no, I
relevant.
wasn't trying to individualize anyone.
How you were managed picking them off one at a time. So as far as
I
these two are,
mentioned things like our town manager is above
Bree,
average. I was just trying to
Bree,
use an example. So
I'm
thank
gonna
you.
ask
I
you
wasn't
a-
trying to offend anyone.
Bree, thank you. Okay, go ahead, friend.
when the override was defeated, I spoke in front of the Board of Selectmen and asked them, because I thought this was a rainy day at the time, and that we look at stabilization to save all of the positions that were lost, that were going to be lost because only budget A was approved. That was going to cost $1.5 million plus, but it would have been across the board for the DPW, the fire, the police, the schools, everybody, just to get us back to square one. And none of the new positions we were requesting in that override would be considered. At the time, I was I felt pretty strongly about it. And I thought it was something that would have made sense in terms of the fact that it was saving all those positions. One of the things I don't like about Articles 4 and 5 that are being proposed is that you have prioritized. In your own opinion, you think these two departments are the ones that amount to the most. Now, there are well over a dozen teachers that are being lost, and some people say, well, there's too many teachers anyways, but that's someone else's opinion. DPW is losing 5 people. The town hall lost several positions, and some people that work very hard today are gonna be working a lot harder tomorrow because the support that they need for that job is gone. So I find it a little bit uncomfortable that we're favoring one section over another, when a lot of people are being hurt with what's happening. You talk about this doesn't affect taxes, but ultimately it does. If you add 4 people, it may not affect it when you take it out of the savings account in year 1, but in year 2, you have to budget for it. And consequently, taxes will go up by these 4 positions. That doesn't mean I'm opposed to it or in favor. I'm just saying it will affect taxes. It can't not affect taxes.
Yeah.
As an override.
Could I just,
Well, just let me finish
Yeah,
my
sure.
point, and then you can
all right,
continue on. You talk about tough times ahead, and we're well aware of, we're confronting another deficit next year. And I hate to see us do Band-Aids now that we have to tear off come next year when the town decides not to support another override. That to me would be really very painful for the community, because we'd be hiring some new people. They'd get up and running, or in worst case with the police, it takes 9 months to get somebody ready. They have to be screened, they have to go to the police academy, and then we don't have the money to support that position. We've just trained somebody that can now jump into another town, and it's come out of our pockets to pay for that. I said this last week, and I'm gonna continue to hammer it, we need to focus on the 27 budget. We need to look at these positions, the other positions that were lost, weed through them, find which ones are the ones we have to have the town run efficiently, and build a budget with an override, because we're gonna not have enough money to do it. And that we can go to the public, go to our taxpayers and say, hey, guys, we're gonna come back again. We think we got it right. We hope you can support it. Here's the reasons why, and really focus on that rather than Band-Aids along the way. Some people think this is a nice idea. The next thing we know, there'll be another group that wants to do another special for their favorite people, the people they prioritize. And I don't think we can do it in little pieces like this. We need to look at the whole budget and solve our problem in one total package. The way we tried before, but obviously we went too far in trying to fix all what the problems we thought we saw in this town. We asked for too much, and I'll take as much blame for that as anybody, because I supported it. I saw 80 cents and I didn't think it was a big deal, but 80 cents on a 30 $1,000 tax bill is a lot more than I think we realize. So, and I think there are a lot of other issues as well. But having said that, I think we need to focus on 27. I don't like the idea of doing Band-Aids. I've talked to both of the chiefs, and yeah, they love new people if they could get them, but they're also conflicted knowing the fact that, well, gee, if I can only hire them for 1 year, what happens in the following year? And that's what's bothering me the most about these. So that's sort of my 2 cents.
Great. You've been very patient and I apologize. Your name, please, for the record.
Okay, Elizabeth Shed, Franklin Street. I want to get
Could
back
you,
to one of the
I'm being a total jerk here. Could you spell it for me? The last name?
Shed, SHEDD,
I knew, okay, thank you.
right?
Yeah, I just,
Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
I want to get back to the slide that you had about the neighborhood. And it kind of addresses a lot of things that people are talking about. I live in the quote unquote neighborhood at the end of West Street and Franklin Street. In my little neighborhood, there's myself, senior citizen. Across the street from me is a multi-handicapped child. Next house over is a man who's on hospice. And to my side is family that has special needs children. 4 houses, 1 neighborhood. Each of us have used the emergency medical systems training, whatever you want to call it, within the past 5 years. I'm sitting here right now. I had a severe stroke a year ago, April. I mean, it was bad. And I'm here because of the EMTs, and I'm not gonna cry. I got phenomenal service. It's not a dollar and cents. We're talking people's lives. I also had seizures during COVID. I had EMTs, but I'm talking just within the past year, my little neighborhood has had the emergency medical people there in our homes with all 4 of us within the past year. I also hear we're close enough to Route 3. I hear the sirens all the time. I hear the crashes. We're not talking dollars and cents. We're talking emergencies. We're talking people's lives. I would not be here if it was not for 911. Those guys are phenomenal. The rapport that they have, which comes to the training that Friend is talking about, you can't put a dollar value on that, people. You can't. You spoke about neighborhoods. I took the petition around. Oh, we'll do whatever we can for the police and the fire. It's a way in to get people back in going, oh, time out. Let's think positive. If we can get support through these 2 warrants for emergency, then we're gonna be able to get highway. We're gonna be able to positively get things as opposed to saying, whoa, way too much. We're talking people's lives.
I hear you. I hear you. It is,
I mean,
it's
I'm
just,
here talking to you guys and I'm dead. Let's put it that way. And it comes down to 911 and how quickly they were able to get to my house and how phenomenal they were. And listen to me.
they're amazing.
They are.
They are amazing group of people.
Yeah, and that's why I'm sitting here right now to say, hey, you got a product here from 911.
And a darn fine one. A darn fine one. Yes, go ahead.
I
Doug.
just wanted to respond to a couple of things that Brenda had mentioned. And,
Sure, absolutely.
you had talked about, if we add 2 police, 2 fire, that it's gonna be a tax increase on the residents. And
No.
I did hear you say that.
Yeah, eventually you have to raise
Yeah.
taxes to pay for those salaries in the second year.
In the second
First
year.
year, you're taking out a savings, stabilization. If
Right,
they're still in the force the second year, you're gonna have to budget it. Just like those 3 firefighters, there were 4 firefighters they got on a grant. When the grant ran out, we had to make sure there was room in our budget to pay for those.
right. And
They feel that they paid for it by the increase in ambulance calls. And we have to remember that the ambulance revenue was about $1.3 million a year that we get for ambulance calls. So that does offset that whole department by quite a bit.
yeah, I mean, I was just gonna add to that, I think we have to give the taxpayers, the residents, the opportunity to decide if they are willing to pay that tax for the police and fire. And I think if that was presented to them, at a town meeting, my guess is that it would pass.
Good
You know,
point, because we got the override passed at town meeting also.
But-
And we didn't, and we went to the polls and we lost. You don't have to go to the polls with this. So all those people that voted against the override won't necessarily be at town meeting.
For this, but for next year to sustain it, it would have to be an override. There
Oh, yeah,
really is no
follow here,
other-
yep.
There's no other.
Right, but the
choice.
override is an all or nothing budget, so, I mean, we
Well,
can't
that-
strip
I
it
think
apart
that- I
and
think that was a mistake.
what's that?
That it was just one choice and because a lot of the people, and we've drifted a bit and I apologize. But I think that, it wasn't that there wasn't support, obviously, you've gotten all these fine folks to sign a petition and to try to reinstate some of these things. I think it was the entire, it was one choice, either this or nothing. And this, the override was too much. And had there been a lesser choice or a more multifaceted choice, then it might have been a different result. And I don't know how to do that, right? At this moment, I'm not that smart. Susan?
Right.
So Betsy, can we have a moment here where we actually?
I thought we were having a moment.
We're all friends here and we're all live in the town and we
Yep.
all want the best for the town. There's no question about that. We need to be humble here.
Sure.
This past year was a huge error. You have to admit that, okay?
I think I just did.
We don't go anywhere if we don't admit that. So there were so many things in that budget that were so distasteful to people, like an assistant town planner when we hadn't had one for 19 months. That's one of the top ones. And if you know, I look at the list and run down, and people were offended by asking to pay to agree to something like that. It's like you guys dug forever looking for things to throw in there and had this huge override when it could have been something reasonable that we could have all embraced. But it was way too much money, it was too much fat, it was too much bloat, and people rejected it.
So
That's what happened. So if we get together, can I finish?
Yes.
If we can get together and really have a dialogue about what the priorities are, where the cuts can be made, I can tell you right off the bat, I know of 2 lawsuits intimately that we are involved in that would have been 2 salaries for these people. We have to stop doing that stuff. Unless we're positive we're gonna win these cases, these lawsuits, we need to stop pissing that money down a rat hole. This is money that should be going to our police people or our fire. And we need to be honest about what's going on in this town, where the waste is taking place, and let's get together and say, this is what we all want, this is what we all have to have. The schools will talk about that, so on and so forth. There's plenty of waste in the administration. I've talked to people over there that actually work there, and they have said that the administration is out of control. The amount of money that they have in administration should be going to.
Madam Chair, can we
And so on
bring
and
this
so
back to,
So
back to
the
the
fact
2
of the
articles we
matter
want to
is, we
discuss?
need to we need to have a.
There's nobody here to discuss the schools.
No, that's
so,
okay.
Can I talk about the fire issue? Because my father was sick for 16 years. And that,
we're not gonna turn this into a free-for-all. We're gonna just wait a second.
We got 2, we
Susan
got
is-
2, we got
Susan
2
is
articles
reading.
on.
they were late twice. Okay, with the existing fire staff, they were late twice when he had serious medical emergencies. Somebody's gonna die, okay, if you take away more fire.
Okay.
That's what we're talking about here. It's not like we've got to give this person this and this person this person this. He was on the verge of having a heart attack once and they didn't come for like 10 minutes, okay? And so you just can't take away more staff under those circumstances. It's
Okay,
a different conversation.
thank you.
Can we,
All
debate
right,
this
Susan,
after-
we're not
after
going
enough?
to, there's as many people as there are in this community. You're going to have opinions as to what is
Exactly
important and what is not.
Exactly right.
There was a great deal of work, trust me, that went into trying to figure out what the town needed to go into the next chapter. Obviously, what that scenario was not accepted. So now it has to be looked at again, but it is not going to be done without the cooperation of the professionals that we hire to tell us what they need for their departments, whether it be DPW, whether it's administration, whether it is finance. These are all pieces of the whole. We have $100 million corporation, and it is not going to be pulled together in any other way other than that size of the corporation needs to be, which is to look at what is necessary to keep it going. Now, obviously, we have hit upon an area of service that is near and dear to the community, and these articles are the result of that. So at this point in time, I want to bring this back to these two articles, because that is what we're going to be discussing at the special town meeting. Rainey is already working with the select board, as far as their strategy for next year, as far as what the budget is going to be, and, you know, if you care to just, you know, tell us where that's going, because the select board wants to get the strategy part of it done early so that we have plenty of time to work, but please don't think that there wasn't any tremendous amount of work looking at each of these individual departments to try to make sure that they could function and provide the community, all of the community, what they're looking for, because for everyone that is dedicated to the police department, you have someone that is equally passionate about the library, or equally passionate about sidewalks, or the beach, or any of the other parts of the community, and it's that balancing act, and it's very difficult.
So,
But I'm not gonna debate this with you now, because I really do want to give Derek
tiny,
his,
Betsy, please.
as long as we're not gonna go down the road of there we just were on.
Okay, I highly recommend going forward that you speak to the people, not necessarily the managers, because the people who are on the ground doing the jobs were absolutely heartbroken that people were going to lose their jobs, and they commented, many departments, the people who work on the ground, where cuts could be made so that people's jobs could be saved. So the managers are never going to give a nickel back, ever. But the people that are in the department and want to save their comrades' jobs will tell you perhaps maybe with some of these.
And we're gonna have to agree to disagree. I'm not as negative on that as you are, because I've worked with these department heads and the people that report to them. I know a lot of them after 30 years, and they're wonderfully engaged people, and what you're painting isn't that. And we are very lucky to have the department heads that we have that are
I'm not
dedicated
disparaging
to the people.
Department heads, I'm saying that.
Well, you absolutely were, Susan.
Sometimes the people on the ground have a better grasp on where the savings could be.
Okay,
There's no question about it. So, we could ask those people and say, how about, what do you think we can do? And you might have a little bit different perspective. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a good exercise.
and I think that that's an exercise that the department heads and the management that we have is participating in, and they do speak to them. And there's, you know, we're gonna have to just agree to disagree about that as the ultimate strategy. John, 1 second, Teddy.
I give up. First of all, I think Friend's whole commentary was very logical. Therefore, it can't possibly pass muster.
Fair
With all due respect.
Very.
You know, I think it has to be the right venue for some of the things that Susan and the committee are talking about. This isn't it. We are asked to look at what's presented to us by the selectmen and the town manager, and to opine on that, whether we think it works or not. Now, we had a postmortem on the override. We supported it unanimously because we saw the logic of the things that each of those departments wanted to do. And they made presentations to us that I think were very effective. Both fire, police, highways, they all did a great job of expressing their needs. Unfortunately, the town didn't agree. And our error, and it was an error, and so there's no problem with us admitting it, was we asked for too much. When
Thank
there
you
were
for
new
saying
jobs,
Thank
when
you.
there were new jobs introduced, that shouldn't have been in that. Okay. Now it's time to go back and rethink this again, and not, and the next presentation, which is gonna have to be an override again, unless we decide we're gonna go out of business, become part of Marshfield. You know, Cobb is doing pretty well. And we've got to stop and reconstitute this. But your job is talking to the selectmen
Mhm.
and the town staff, not us.
Mhm.
Give us what we can opine on. I have similar love for the fire department as you do down in the end there, because I spent a lot of time in their trucks this winter.
And they're amazing.
Wasn't engineered.
On a first name basis.
So it's my dog.
But anyway, I mean, I think we've got to do our job, but our job is to, one, opine in these two articles that are being presented,
Right,
and understanding that that is going to add to the 600,000 deficit we're projecting for next year. So we're going to be back for an override for the 600,000 just for the 5A budget.
That might be easy to swallow.
But
well, then it
it's
would
just,
be another 4, it would be $1 million, Teddy.
oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
add the 4 and it's $1 million.
Yeah.
Now we're talking a few.
Well, that's if you replenish your stabilization fund, correct?
No,
No?
that's if you keep paying the people that you just hired.
You gotta come up with $1 million, not
And
600,000,
I'm not ignoring, you, just give me
Okay.
a second.
but anyway.
But I want to thank you, Ted, for saying that, because there were mistakes made and we have to right the ship. And we can do that, and you can get people behind you easily if they're not looking at something that's psychotic, because the 5B was psychotic, in my opinion, and clearly other people felt the same way. So the fact of the matter is, let's get together, figure out what the priorities are. And we will be out there stumping for you and, you know, waving flags and getting people on board, but it has to be something reasonable. And we have to be treated with respect, and we have to know that, you know, we have the support.
You know, Susan, I would like
Respect
to
is a two-way
interject
street.
on that word respect. It's a two-way street.
Absolutely.
And there has been a great deal of that street not being traveled in two directions. There has been, I think one of the biggest disappointment's the wrong word, but one of this situation in the last year is the vitriol, the anger, the meanness, the absolute meanness that we aren't discussing the problems, we are just ripping at people. And to me, that doesn't solve anything.
So
And if
No.
we could inject respect,
Betsy?
but and also, John is anxious to speak as well.
We got before the select board and I asked twice the question. On February 10th and on the, town meeting floor, the question was asked, what was going to happen if 5B did not pass? And it was told to us that we would revisit 5A. It's recorded, that's absolutely on, and so then when that meeting came about, I asked that question twice because it was clear that there was going to be no revisiting of 5A to figure out how to deal with this. And then, when you want respect, okay, we started being treated like naughty children because we didn't vote for the override. There was a reason why we didn't vote for the override.
And kind of circling back to Ted, you're talking to the wrong audience here.
No, I'm not talking, I'm talking to the right person right now. Okay, so it was very punitive. it was very harsh and it was disrespectful, in my opinion. So, and if I read that wrong, I'm not the only person, but if I read that wrong, I'm sorry. But it goes both ways. So I'm gonna respect you, but you need to respect me and you need to respect the rest of the taxpayers. When they clearly state to you, we are not happy with what happened, and how are we gonna resolve that? And let's do that right, and not treat us like naughty children that didn't pass that override, okay? So let's do that. We can respect each other a lot. It has to be both ways.
Can I
That's
interject
fair.
something?
John, yes, Teddy, 1 second. John has been really patient, so let me do that and then I'll get right back to you. John,
My question, and
you still remember? Because I.
no, I
that's
sure
my-
do. It's a pretty simple question. And he probably knows the answer, Rainey. So we have, in the past, we built a new crematorium, we built a new police station. We basically built a whole new fire station. We built the school, we did all these things.
Mhm.
And probably a whole lot other things that I can't even think of. But those are the big capital expenses. Where are we at with those things coming paid off? Are they another 20 years, 10 years? I mean.
It's
as
in
soon
the
as
back of the annual report.
Yeah,
It will show you each and every one of the bond issues that, and where it is attached to,
okay.
and what is expected and how it plays out.
And I know things where.
And it's also on the website, so that information is pretty
I'll look
readily
at it,
available.
but the fact of the matter is, it's gotta be millions of dollars. So eventually, you talk about, you just take this, what your conversation, what are we gonna do in fiscal 27?
Yeah,
At some point, just like at your house, when you pay your mortgage off, you pay your car payment off, and you still have your car that doesn't have a lot of miles on it. And you know, get another loan, now you've got more money. And so that's where I'm going with this, and it's gotta be a lot of them. So I mean, it's gotta, I don't know how long these.
well, we also, yeah, and I think that, and Rainey has certainly mentioned it, and Mary. Seawall is coming, bridge coming, DPW garage coming,
PFAS.
PFAS, huge. And what is that gonna be? If that's not on the tax bill,
I
it's
don't
gonna be
know.
on the people that are drinking the
I'm
water.
moving out of town, I'm moving out of state.
I mean, that's, and that's,
Save a spot
so
for
that's,
Jane.
I mean, so there is, unfortunately, yes, you're right, and it does, these capital expenditures keep coming back at us, so. Teddy, did you have something, or did you forget?
That's my answer.
Okay, that's fine, it'll come back to you, call, waiting at
It's on the
it.
screen,
Um,
or which ones are active.
What are we
I'm
gonna do
not,
with these two out?
I'm confused as to the colors of the mittens here, what is that?
Breeze
Yeah.
yellow.
I just described what happened to my dad. I really think that you guys have got to hear this.
Christine, I believe that I've heard that you tell this story a couple of times. And you were concerned because the response time had slipped. Is that kind of?
I'm concerned that, let me just explain the situation, okay? So my father for 16 years lived with an open hernia, and then he developed heart disease, right? So you think of that and you think of Betty Shedd's story. He could anytime have an emergency where he would bleed out internally in his stomach, have a stroke, have a heart attack, all these things. And all of those need quick response times. And they came a lot and they're already stretched. And I understand your point that everybody has different priorities. But I think when it comes to making sure that we don't have anybody killed because the fire department or the police, because sometimes the police had to come instead because the fire department couldn't get there in time. I really think it's a different level of priority, and I'm just really begging you guys to consider that. And I would think that the idea is that we're doing this as a stopgap, and then over the next year, the community is going to have a long conversation about how to fix the budget. And there's many different ways to do that, and everybody can talk about that. But in the meantime, we don't want anyone to die, or we don't want anyone to have a late response to a stroke and then not recover the same way that Betty Shed recovered. That's just my point.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sean, were you raising your hand or no? No, all set? Okay, great.
That's Bree. Bree's on the bottom, Sean's on the top.
I think that's been for a while. I don't know if that's new.
No, I
or if
think
that's
Bree,
old.
Bree, still up.
Hi, I'm here. I'll be quick, I promise. I just wanted to clarify, I wasn't trying to attack people's salaries as much as I was looking at the expenses of things. So I wanted to make sure that that wasn't being taken as a personal thing, more just looking at the contingency thing. You know, we can see the expenses and stuff clearly. Like maybe we could look at things other than people's salaries. Like we were talking about feet on the ground. Maybe we're wasting
Subject at hand.
paper somewhere.
I don't
Bree,
want to
I
hear any
really
more
wanna
about
circle
people's
back.
salaries. I
Right,
want to hear.
right. I understand. I was coming to clarify that I was
I would
not trying
recommend
to.
that she be cut off
And-
if she doesn't get the message.
I think we need to circle back. Here's the,
And
as I
wow,
see these
okay,
two
I was just trying to finish my sentence, but thank you.
okay, thank you, Bree. The issue is, I think that everybody agrees the issue is not the reinstatement of these positions. Everybody recognizes that they are necessary, they're not extraordinary, they are extraordinary human beings, but they're not above and beyond what is necessary. Right? We all agreeing with that?
Absolutely.
Am I getting nods on that?
Yes.
So it's just where the money is going to come from and how it is sustained in, and how we look at it as a one-year solution or as part of the whole
Right, my
going.
point was we could fund for
Bree,
fundraisers, but thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you. Could you just mute people so that we can try to take turns? That'd be great, and I'll try to, somebody yell at me if they see somebody raising their hand that I haven't caught on
Like I
to.
said, a word. Yeah, his hand.
I'm sorry, Derek.
I was just gonna add just to what was going on around the room, but and listening to everybody and yeah, there's a lot of departments that are near and dear to everybody's heart. You know,
Absolutely.
and I think if we, I think all of those departments make up the heart of the town.
Mhm.
Personally, I think the fire department is the backbone of the town, because without them, everybody suffers, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, so
I don't,
Public safety.
public safety, right, I'm sorry, I meant public safety, yes.
Yeah.
Because
a lot of times the police are the first one to get there. And, you know, and you know, the fire department needs their support, so, yeah, it's.
I don't think that's an issue. We
No, I don't
all
think it is either. You're absolutely-
unanimously, if we took a vote right now, it would be unanimous. We support police, fire, and all of us supported the override, which we thought was very judiciously planned. Our big error was new jobs. That shouldn't have been in there. And I would posit that that's why we lost the damn vote.
One of these.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Okay.
I think that's part of it. We do have the schools representing
You're gonna vote these
60%. But I want to get back. to
Yeah, let's
these-
get back to the business.
I think just. Our vote may be moot, because I think town meeting is probably going to be looked favorably on both of these.
Mhm.
So I think I've probably heard enough debate regarding this.
Oh,
Would you be willing to vote articles 4 and 5, special town meeting?
Oh. Yeah, I mean, this is,
Stop agonizing and just vote, let's just vote.
Yeah,
I still have some real reservations on, and how, of just the deficit that this,
Well, town meeting's a month away.
well, we.
Hopefully, we don't have any more meetings.
The
scheduled.
town
yeah, we're gonna have to have one more.
is a month away, but I'm just making a point that you can't go back to the stabilization fund every year if the override doesn't occur, right? So to Betsy's point, now we've hired people, right, that don't have a future.
I mean, not necessarily. I think, that's one way to look at it. I think the other way to look at it is, you know, we go to we go to vote on June 16th. And if it's an overwhelming vote and the residents want to prioritize police and fire, then I think that should set the precedent for developing the budget for fiscal year 27. You know, so I think that should be forefront in everybody's mind when developing the budget.
And
Because
if
that's
and
what
if it's
the voters
not,
want.
but if-
I think
but-
we're-
Okay, if it's not,
Wait a minute,
then I'm dead wrong here, but,
no, Rainey,
Is that in fact what they would be doing, prioritizing fire and police when those are the only two choices they're given?
well, with these articles, I mean, you'll see the response and votes.
But for next
There are only two choices given to support fire and police. There's nothing in there about libraries, there's nothing in there about recreation, nothing about
Schools.
any other department. So by fiat, you have limited the choice. People support them, sure, but that doesn't mean that they support them above and beyond other things. They might support the schools more than they do fire and police.
Well, nothing, nobody,
To
to that point, nobody stopped anybody from creating a citizens
But it's
petition.
really
Yep,
not.
you're right.
To advocate for the
It's
schools.
To say that it's going to show that the community really supports fire and police when those are the only two choices they're given.
That's what we were hearing from everybody.
I had no pushback collecting signatures. It was pretty overwhelming.
It's impossible.
Can I ask how many
Sure.
signatures you got in your petition?
Personally, I got over 100. I
You
think
just got to get on the
collectively,
ballot.
no, collectively, we had over 250.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm thinking in terms of support going down the road.
Yeah, yeah.
In a very short amount of time.
I was face to face with residents in town and very little, if any,
Yeah.
maybe one or two opposition. The question was probably
Whenever you're
about
looking for an
schools.
outcome of a vote, that pre-number can be somewhat indicative,
Yeah.
but it's not big enough to really.
Can I just-
all right.
I
let's
just
do
think
this.
that police and fire,
I think I'd like to put a slide deck, isn't there?
How
I'm
about
sorry,
debate
what
the
did-
vote?
Isn't there a second slide?
the stabilization slide deck.
Al
Can we
has
see
had his
that?
hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please, go ahead. Show us
Oh.
your second deck there. That'd be great. I apologize.
I think we all five.
No, there was two decks.
Let's
I
see.
didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Shame
Well,
on
this
us.
this was to address any concerns about. the
Madam
stabilization
Chair?
fund.
Alice had his hand up for about an hour and 15 minutes.
Sorry, why don't you just yell at me? Everybody else does.
It was hard to get in.
I just have a couple of comments. Number
Yes,
one, I
please.
have admiration and respect for everybody that came here tonight to join this meeting. It's a good presentation you made.
Thank you.
Yes, you work very hard.
I'm very much in favor of the ideas behind your articles, very much. I think we have all come to a place where there's a lot of feelings, emotions, ideas, and thought that's gone behind this. And what I expect is that each of you that are here tonight will be a major presence at the special town meeting, as you should be. And as you should advocate for this argument. The stories that I've heard online and here are very emotional and very touching. I'm touched by them. I will be touched by them when I go to town meeting. Now, I have to tell you, I sit as a member of this finance committee. I have a background in finance. This isn't about me. This is about my role when I took this position and was appointed by the town moderator. While I'm very motivated to support the notion and keep public safety fully staffed, I have to sit back and say, okay, from an ethical point of view, what's my job as a member of the finance committee? My job is to look not only the here and now and the issue that's before us, which is very motivating, but to look at the longer term. So what I'm going to tell you right now is when we move this vote, I'm going to ask the chairman to move this vote. I'm going to vote against both of these articles because of that one view. And I mean no harm, no injury, and nothing but respect for all.
Thank you. Teddy?
There's another side. Not to disagree with my learned colleague who knows more than me. But in one sense, we'd be rolling the dice if we supported it, shooting craps. If it passes a town meeting, it comes out of stabilization, which none of us wanted to come out of, but that's the only place it could possibly come out of. And what it does, it sets up for next year, and that's where it's rolling the dice. If we don't get an override next year, then those jobs go away. As they will if we don't support the bills. So it's really a choice of, do we want to bulk up the fire and police to the degree possible. Or let it ride for a year. And because we're looking at an override next year, why shouldn't it be for $1 million as opposed to 600,000?
Well, it's gonna be more than that.
Yeah, it will. A lot.
Okay,
I mean, another way to look at that too is, I believe there's some firefighters, call firefighters, that would fill those positions, who've trained with the department, who are already experienced in town. You know, so we're also giving up those firefighters, and if you revisit this a year or two down the road, you're gonna get somebody brand new that's not familiar with the town or the protocol or procedures with the fire department as well, so there's a lot of ways to analyze it. This is just creating a bridge
Yep.
to get us to, you know, a fiscal year 27 budget, and, you know.
did you wanna go through
Oh, sorry.
your stabilization fund analysis there?
Yeah, it seemed like that might have been a concern for some
Yes,
folks.
absolutely, sure.
Okay,
Yep,
and, yeah. Go to the next slide, I guess. And so the purpose of it would be to demonstrate that Duxbury can responsibly restore 2 police and 2 fire positions using a modest transfer from the stabilization fund while maintaining healthy reserves well above the town's 5% policy floor. I know that you guys recommend 7 to 10%. We're not even quite there, or we're just over 7, I think, today. But anyways, to policy floor and a AAA bond rating criteria. Right?
Yep.
Okay, so, the starting balance, at the end of fiscal year 24 was 7,058,181. There was free cash transfers of $200,000 at the special town meeting in March of this year. With, projected earnings of 100,000, so it brings the stabilization fund up to 7,358,181. Does anybody not agree with that?
part of the work.
Okay, and then so the citizen,
Yeah, Mary, that's wrong, isn't it?
Yeah,
that was off the top.
yeah, I'll point out. Would you mind going back to the previous slide? So the free cash transfer that's listed here, that article was IP'd, so that transfer did not happen at the March town meeting.
We didn't put money into the stabilization this year. We didn't have any money to put into it.
Okay,
But I can see where that was.
So the remaining-
because it was brought up but it was IP'd. It was definitely postponed because we didn't have the money to do it.
And this would reduce the stabilization fund by the
By the free
2
cash.
salaries of both
400,000 roughly.
400.
So why didn't you have the money? Where was the money
In
gonna
free
come
cash?
from?
The free cash money was being used for what it's always used for, which is capital. And others,
So was it in the 5A budget? The
No.
free- No.
No, it's
free
never in
cash.
5A.
Oh, yeah, it's not in the budget at all.
you know,
It's just
it's,
free cash.
yeah, no, John, it's, you know this.
Yeah,
Article 6, the capital budget is a different.
Oh, yeah.
Different article.
okay. So you had it in to spend, but
But it was allocated to different purposes, not putting into a savings account because we were stretched so thin. We didn't have money to tuck
so
away.
that somehow happened. That was an article, that was.
Yeah.
At town meeting, but somehow at town meeting, and this has nothing to do with. Not passing the 2.5 override. But somehow the 200,000 you couldn't use. You see where I'm going with this?
No, not
It's a
that.
special within the annual, at the regular town meeting, we have the special first and then the annual,
Yeah,
and that's when we typically make these kinds of transfers. The decision was not to, because we didn't have enough money to balance the budget. We were struggling with our budget. Bottom line, when you don't have enough extra cash flow,
so
you
I'm
can't
just
throw
trying
it
to
in the
figure the
city.
date, so in March, we're talking about in March.
At the
Yeah.
annual
At
town
the
meeting,
annual town meeting.
yeah, special within the annual. There's 2 meetings from wheels, adjourn the annual, start the special, which is like 10 articles.
Okay,
in there was, its transfers
Just
were,
did too many
we couldn't
special-
afford to do it,
So
so we didn't do it. It was on the warrant, but I don't know, was it withdrawn before the warrant or IP'd at the time? I don't remember which, but we just didn't have the cash to do it. We wanted to do it, but there
It was
wasn't.
on the warrant because it's a recurring article. We always put it-
Right, we do it every year.
all I'm saying is
If we
we
got the
passed
money,
the
we do
budget,
it.
the 5A budget.
Right?
It was
That's-
in need.
If I might just jump in.
Yes, that, I would love that.
So the transfers to free cash, I mean, the transfers to stabilization typically on an annual basis are handled using free cash. So it is not part of a 5A or 5B budget. The 5A and 5B budgets do not use free cash as a funding source. So when we replenish our reserves to the different purposes like transfer to OPEB or transfer to stabilization or transfer to compensated absences, those transfers happen with free cash as the funding source. Given the number of capital items that were financed as well as the other reserves that needed to be replenished, the transfer to stabilization was indefinitely postponed at the March town meeting. So I'm just pointing it out so that you can update the slide so that it doesn't include that.
I just wondered if did you know that before the town meeting?
Yes.
And not a long time before that, but it ended up on there anyway. That's all.
Yeah, we build the warrant, we build it way in advance. And so there's oftentimes articles that get IP'd. So at the time that we build the warrant, we want to put placeholders in there in the event that, an issue needs to be taken up at town meeting. But quite often, I think that we've all seen lots of different articles get IP'd for different reasons.
Case in point, the first 11 articles are standard boilerplate. Article 8 is for union contracts. It does not get funded every year. It's a 3-year cycle. This year it was IP.
Okay.
Good
Okay.
example.
Okay, your slide, John? Is there one?
Yeah, the next slide might be moot then if that $200,000 didn't get moved into this, but, yeah, so post-transfer fund balance,
It's just off by 2, so it would
Yeah.
be 675.
Yeah.
Okay,
and then this here is, the fiscal year 27 budget, if the override had passed. And that $200,000 was moved to the stabilization fund, there would be $7,358,181, which is 6.99% of the override operating budget. That didn't happen, but without the override, we're at $100,461,919 for the operating budget. And we still are at 6.92%. So 7/100ths of the difference.
but if you start using stabilization to support operating, that number goes down pretty quick, so. It's more of a way of conducting business than having the 400,000 to use today. It's the policy of, do you use a savings account for?
I think you
for
do. I mean, I
reoccurring
think it's for
costs?
this exact reason.
Well, it's reoccurring costs. It's not it doesn't replenish itself, so eventually it would drain the account. I mean, we're talking higher level here about why you don't.
Right, I mean, I think it's,
You don't use your savings account to pay your mortgage, because pretty soon you'd drain your savings account and you wouldn't be able to pay your mortgage. It's similar but different.
but I think even without overrides, the stabilization account has increased exponentially over the last 10 years.
Every budget line has.
And that's
Well,
why we
it's
have
exceeded
AAA
the
rating.
operating budgets, though. I mean, I think I had a number somewhere around 126% that it's grown over the last 10 years. And the operating budget has grown maybe 32%. So,
In
I
the
mean-
12 years I've been here, I remember using stabilization twice. The first was under COVID, which we weren't able to replenish, but it was able to keep us financially solid. The second was for the seawall, and we did replace that the following year. It is not standard practice for this town to use stabilization funds to balance the budget. I can promise you.
We never,
well, not to balance the
well, that's what
budget.
you're asking us to
That's-
do,
this is-
and that's
I'm
okay.
asking for one time, right? Is that what?
Yes,
But-
you're asking for a one-time thing.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
a short-term solution to a long-term problem.
Well, it's a bridge that hopefully holds the town's feet to the fire to develop a budget that is sustainable through fiscal year twenty-seven.
Gap to which there is no end, because you cannot predict whether or not another override.
Okay, and what is the, okay, I mean, if, well, like I said, you let the voters decide,
Yes.
you know, that's what's gonna have to
The other thing you
happen.
need to contemplate is the fact that just because it gets passed, if it were to get passed, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean we're hiring firefighters and police officers. That money can be used by those department heads to fund overtime instead. They're
Well,
not required.
These articles, they're specifically asking to,
No, they are not. In fact,
well,
they are-
salaries,
they are
yeah.
specifically, no, they're not. In fact, the articles state quite clearly,
Well, I think the intention of the fire department would be to
it's
restore two positions.
again, not something you can guarantee, because they may tell you that it would be more important to them to have the overtime. So that they could go back to their, they could move up from a 5-man shift to a 6-man shift, which is what they've had to do recently. But the article clearly says, move that the town amend the Duxbury FY 26 operating budget, line 30, police salaries by increasing the appropriation approved at the annual town meeting from $1 amount to another, and to meet said appropriation transfer $186,000 from the town stabilization fund. It doesn't require them to hire anybody. Not at all. In fact, if you posit that, it's not truthful. Because they do have the ability to use that money for something else. It's simply giving them the money, giving them additional funds that they don't have now.
Well, I understand that might be the case with the police department, because it does take 9 to 12
Both
months.
articles are worded the same with the exception of the words police and fire and the numbers contained.
Okay, that's, I
It may not be the
understand that you
intent,
do
but
not want this to pass. I
You
understand.
don't know that at all. I haven't said that.
Okay,
I have not said that. I'm telling you what the reality is so that you're clear on it. It does not guarantee that firefighters and police officers will be hired. And anybody that says that, I don't think is telling
We
you.
can
the truth.
amend it on town floor if we have to do that.
To what though?
Well, I don't know, we'll discuss it.
So do you amend it on town floor that these monies can only be used for hiring a replacement or hiring? So what if he doesn't find somebody? You can't use it on overtime? I don't think,
I believe the fire department has two candidates to fill the vacancies.
I think we're drifting into,
Yeah,
I think we're drifting into.
You know, there's what if this and what if that, and what if a meteorite
Exactly,
comes down
yeah.
and lands on our head? It's ridiculous.
I think it's ridiculous. It is, anybody wanna know what I think? Cause it's driving me, and this has been driving me insane.
Mhm.
And Fred knows this because he had to listen to me for about, a half hour today. Teddy, go ahead.
I
I'm sorry.
think it's probably a short walk, not a drive.
I've known him too long. So I hate, and I use that word very deliberately, spending money from savings or stabilization for operating, for reoccurring costs. It is a bad financial decision. Al is quite correct on that. It is in no way, shape, and form a sustainable strategy. But I'll get
Okay,
there. Give me
sorry.
1 sec.
Yeah.
And it's something that makes me, it's terrible. It goes against everything that I've been taught for my entire business career. In this instance, I have struggled so hard with this because I believe, and friends laughing at me, I believe that we have two obligations. The first one is to provide these departments, all of the departments, with the resources that they need to perform their duties safely and to the benefit of the community, right? And the second piece of it is and these two departments, they are not driven by, we can close the dump for a day, or we can close the library, or we can shut down town hall. We have very little, if any, control over the demands that these departments face. We can't predict who's gonna get sick. We can't predict who's gonna get robbed. We can't predict if there's an accident. There are going to be expenses that I don't think are going to pay any attention whatsoever to whether we budgeted it or not. And I am deeply troubled that if we don't trust this community to understand that we need additional assets to balance our budget for FY 27, and that we've heard their concerns for what happened for FY 26, that we are going to be sitting here next April or May and looking at the departments of police and fire and say, oh my God, we've drained the overtime budget. We've committed the funds for the wages. What are we gonna do? We don't have enough money to go out to the end of the year. Because we cannot control the demands that these departments face. And I cannot believe I'm gonna say this, but I know Kathleen can't believe it either. Nobody's gonna believe I'm saying this. I think that we should use stabilization in this instance, but not label it. Maybe they might need it for overtime. Maybe they are gonna be able to find the best person in the world that can come in understanding that if we don't get an override, that commitment. Who wants to take a job with somebody that they know it might only be for a year? I have no idea how that's gonna play out. Karnak, don't know. But I do know that these funds are going to be necessary to get us through FY 26, whether it be for wages or for overtime, so that we can meet the needs of the community. And I can't even tell you how sick I am to say that. Go ahead.
Further your comment, I think I am also leaning in the same direction. Because I think we can rely on the two department heads to do the right thing with this money. So that we're in a better shape one way or the other to provide the best we can for the community.
Oh,
We got two good people that know what to do and they'll do the right thing here. And therefore I support both these articles.
All right,
and I mean,
I'd like to have a vote, we could.
yeah,
I also think that you're sending a huge message to the community that you're listening to us.
Yes.
And I think that's
Thank you.
huge.
There are a lot of people talking to us and it's just not your voice, it's a lot of voices.
That's what I'm saying.
there's many
They
voices.
don't all agree with you.
There's many voices out there, but why I went into finance, numbers don't lie. I'm looking at the numbers and I know the needs of the community and the numbers don't make sense. I think we need this money to get us through FY 27, and I honestly am trusting the community to, if they want to continue in this for supporting an override next year. Absolutely.
Thank you.
I think that we missed it this year. We asked for too much. And I think that if we can find a happy medium on that to provide what we need to, that the town will understand it and do the right thing. I always believe in Duxbury will do the right thing at the end of the day.
Can we move the question?
Yes, I would, yes.
Would you like to move?
yeah, I'd love to. Move to approve Article 4, citizen petition, use of stabilization funds to increase the appropriation in the FY 26 operating budget, line number 30, entitled Police Salaries.
Second.
Why don't we start with Sean? You still there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm here.
What would you-
I vote nay.
Okay,
I put with yay or nay?
Nay.
Dave,
Nay.
I know. Teddy,
Yay.
Al,
No,
Bren, yay,
Kathleen, no.
okay, so no Al, no Sean.
no, Betsy, you're the final vote,
I vote in favor,
so it's 3-3.
which I think is a kind of a previews of coming attractions of what we're going to see in June 16th. It's going to be a
Want to
very.
move Article 5?
Move to approve Article 5, citizens petition, use of stabilization funds to increase the appropriation in the FY 26 operating budget, line number 32, entitled Fire Salaries.
Second.
Sean,
Sean, nay.
okay,
Ted, yay.
Al,
no.
Fred, yes.
Kathleen, no.
right, so 6-3-3. There you go.
Now, do we have any other things on our agenda that we can discuss tonight?
No,
Are there any
I
year-end
don't.
budget transfers?
No, we're going to be doing some budget transfers, we have to set up one more meeting before the 16th to finish out the transfers. I'm sorry. But we've got the articles done.
Yes, thank you.
Betsy,
Derek, thank
Betsy,
Yes.
Thank you for your time, everybody.
Oh, no, Derek, I appreciate all the work. It's a lot of work. Mary, yes?
You got there, thank you.
two things. So Derek, before you leave, can I just borrow you for 1 second?
Sure.
I'm going to send you an email because if you are planning to use that second slide deck for town meeting, there are
Okay.
stars in the numbers that are being reported in that second slide deck.
Right.
Okay, so I will send you an email with some information on that, okay?
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, I think I have your contact info. Betsy, just in terms of scheduling for the transfers, the request to meet and review those will happen after town meeting.
Oh, the transfer,
Yeah, because we're still working through, some year-end budgetary issues and
don't have any other meetings before the 16th?
we do not at this time. There's no other business to take up before the 16th.
All right, what I'm gonna do then is, I'm gonna make sure that we're posted for an hour before the meeting on the 16th, in case there's anything last minute that we need to attend to.
Sounds great.
And meet next,
The 16th at the
The
special
day-
town meeting.
Special.
At special, Monday
But
night.
I'm-
do the transfer then?
We,
No, she's just
she said that they're gonna be after,
Transfers will be done afterwards.
but we'll post a meeting before that in case there's something that we have to do ahead of
Just for
time.
the meeting's at 6, right?
Yeah,
So we'd have to post for 5.
Right, but, if we have to do transfers, it wouldn't take that long anyway. I mean, I'll post it for 5, but we can always push it back to 5:30 if we don't need to. Are you freezing? Are you cold? Oh, I'm sorry. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.